Okay, folks, good morning. I'm going to get started here and got kind of odds and ends of different things that we're going to try to do. We are going to work on the house, but there's some other things that I started working on just to kind of move things in a different direction. Because a lot of this stuff is just it's like by stages. You can't just like, oh, I'm going to work on this one thing, and there's drying times and stuff like that involved. So, although the house is getting pretty close towards the final stages, there's a couple things that I came across this morning that I want to let you guys know about, especially if you're into the same scales that I am. One of the channels that I subscribe to, although I don't watch a lot of his stuff. Good morning, Barnes. Just because it seems like the more I produce, the less I watch other people's stuff, and it's just habit. You have a certain amount of time to spend on the internet, and you spend it doing your own stuff. You're not really checking other things out. But there's two things that I came across in the last day. The first thing that happened was, while I went ahead and black based with Vallejo Surface Primer, the KVs. Now the KV dilemma I have, it's kind of a small dilemma, and just by doing the research on it, these KVs you could supposedly build two different variants, either KV1s or KV2s, but that's not exactly true. They come with two hulls and four turrets. The other two turrets are around here somewhere. The reason I didn't paint these other two turrets is because these are going to be open top. Oh, Marcus, good. Hang on, because I got the next thing I'm going to bring up is right down your alley. This is the other two turrets. I didn't paint these because I'm going to make them with the turrets opened, and it does not give you a latch that fits in between it. So I'm going to have to manufacture something, even though it's small, to kind of fit there and kind of leave it open. So that's why I didn't mess with these. I'm going to make two of them with the turrets closed and two of them with the turrets opened. But it's really three variants you can have, because you can put the heavy armor variant on this one, which has heavy armor around the turret and has heavy armor on the front plate. However, it doesn't seem from any photographic evidence that the KV2s ever had the heavy armor on the front of the hull. So the dilemma I have then is, do I just put the front armor on the... And I like the way the extra armor looks. So do I put it just on the front hull, on both of them, or on just one of them? So I decided to put it on none of them. And that way I can freely exchange these all completely. And if I find another set of these, then I will probably make them both heavy armor with the bolted on armor. So I just didn't want a hull that had extra armor here on the front and a KV2 turret on it, because it would bug me. Okay, it may not bug you guys, but it may not bug me. I'm gonna skip I'm gonna skip this because we got some Australians here, and I think you guys would be interested in this. One of the channels that I subscribe to, but I don't watch all the time, is this, and I actually found relatively recently, is this guy from Australia, I think. For an American, he doesn't have a super Australian sounding voice. Okay, he doesn't have a lot of that twang. Good morning, Jeffrey. And his name is Painting Panzers, and he's got some interesting figure ideas. And I think he does 15s and 20s, which is really unusual for me to find anybody doing 20s. But he just put out a video about, the best figures you've never seen, or something like that. It was about AB figures, and he does a lot of AB figures. I think that anybody who does 20s knows about ABs, but if you don't do 20s, maybe you don't. But he's got a special going on. If you watch his latest video, if you put the name of his channel in the comments line, they're offering free shipping, which is huge. So AB figures, free shipping. I don't think there's a limit. I'm going to be getting some. Not a lot, maybe just like one or two packs, but I want some Soviet tank crews that have some panache. So if I had known about it earlier, I might have actually gotten those British tanks and gotten some British crews. But I have some AB figures, but I think like two packs of like something I picked up off of eBay or something like that. So that's a pretty good deal, because shipping is really the problem. Nobody wants to pay for that, you know. So yeah, check it out. Check out his video, whatever. He's I've interacted with him a little bit on the video of whatever, because he's on one of his videos. But I'm relatively new to watching him. I just, some people could be out there all the time and they don't get suggested to you, so you don't even know about them. So he does much higher quality videos than I do. I'm not into that. Yeah, check it out. I'll be getting. I think I'll be getting some Soviet stuff. I think I got enough German things to go by. So anyhow, the other thing I found out while doing these is the big problem with using Vallejo surface primer is how it reacts as it dries through the airbrush. Inside the airbrush, not here. The stuff is great, but I want to airbrush it because then you don't have to. If you paint this by hand with a brush, you have to go over it a couple of times if it's kind of a slippery surface, like plastic, or like if you were going to paint like this German half track, okay, and you were going to brush paint this side of this hole, just because there's nothing really for it to grab onto, you're going to have to paint over this a couple times. So, but not if you airbrush it. But the problem is if you put it in the cup, because it has polyurethane capabilities or properties, it starts to kind of dry and add, it starts getting gummy and it's a pain to kind of clean up. You have to stop what you're doing to do maintenance, basically. So it's annoying. So there's way back when I was airbrushing, my first stint on it, when I had done the mats for the DBA things with a really, really cheap airbrush, I knew I needed to get airbrush thinner, and I went on this guy's, I figured there's got to be a cheaper way to make airbrush thinner, and I came across this guy's channel where he made this stuff, and he kept calling it Jesus juice. And I had it like for 4 years. I had made this mix. It's a mixture of distilled water, like Windex, this stuff right here, a couple drops of this Flow-Aid, which is how I even got this to begin with, and isopropyl alcohol. And I had been using it for a while, but I ran out of it. I'm like, it's just water, whatever. So since I've started spraying this stuff, I've just been using water to kind of clean it, and it doesn't work really well. So I'm like, yesterday, I'm like, let's just make another batch of this Jesus juice. And holy crap, it cleaned the gumminess off really easy. So if you guys want to know that, I can put a link to his video. It's kind of long-winded, and I finally just ended up making my own proportion with what he stuff. I didn't have the Glass Plus that he used, so I used Windex. It's like 60% distilled water, some Windex, some isopropyl alcohol, and a few drops of this, and it cut through the gumminess of this, because what happens is when you use it in the cup, it's drying really fast, and it's kind of like lacquer. When you use lacquer or something like that, or Agrax Earthshade, okay, if you put it on, it gets tacky really quick. It starts misbehaving, so you can't mess with it. Same thing with this stuff. It just starts getting gummy, and that stuff just cut right through it. Water just won't cut it, just to clean it. So anyhow, I can put that link in there after this video is over with. But haven't already yet been looking at the Eureka miniature site for AB. I've been eyeing some casualty figures. Oh, always the optimist. So he's got some really good videos. Painting Panzers has some really good videos on camouflage stuff, and I'm probably going to consult his video when I come up with my own method of doing it. But it's nice to see when you're doing something that's like a camouflage scheme, it's nice to see. You go to the end result, like, okay, I like how those turned out. Okay, what steps did he do? And it's as you're watching it, you're like going like, that's just not going to turn out like this, like the end result. And then you can see how it starts changing, and that's where experience comes in. You know, where things start not looking that great all the way through, but you know that there's many more steps to be added. But as a viewer, you may not be aware of that, and that kind of helps kind of put everything together in a perspective. Interesting. I've been a regular with your hand sanitizer. That's the biggest discovery I've ever made. That's my own discovery. Somebody else may have a video about using it. I stumbled across it. There's other things that I've developed about painting styles and stuff throughout the years, but hand sanitizer, by and large, is just incredible. You know, and hey, I'm not going to keep it to myself. I'm going to share it with you guys. You know, like I have gotten ideas for other people. So. But anyhow, yeah, that the Jesus Juice stuff is amazing. Because this stuff is a pain in the butt to clean up. It's good stuff, but it's a pain in the butt to clean off your airbrush. So the smorgasbord that we have planned today is we need to base these in green so that we can do a wash on them and let that dry and then get them to the same point the T-3485s are. But I'd like to see these finished because, you know, I've got a lot of early German tanks that are just laughing at, you know, them not having to deal with any Russian monsters. So we'll have to cut those guys down to size. But yeah, this stuff was a breeze to clean. Anyhow, so we're gonna check and make sure we don't have any, that the black covered everything, and it looks like I did a decent job of it. These, of course, are the Pegasus models. The problem is I'm not airbrushing here. I'm airbrushing somewhere where the lighting isn't as good as here. So sometimes you miss something. Okay. And like I've said before, I'm new to airbrushing, and I probably will always be new to airbrushing compared to my brush painting. And it is a tool to help with the brush painting, not the other way around. So I'm still primarily going to be a brush painter. I just have so much more. I have so much more control with it. All right, so I have this Russian Soviet camouflage paint set, which I don't think I'm going to use for dry brushing this stuff because it's a little too thin and I have to struggle with it. So have I done any French tanks? Not yet. I will not do French tanks before I do the desert. And I don't dislike the French tanks. I dislike the German tanks that fight the French tanks. So I dislike like Panzer IVs without the little turret storage thing in the back. It just bothers me. It just looks weird. It looks like an SUV without a roof rack. I don't know. It just looks weird, you know, to me. And I don't have any French. I've got nothing against the French. I think they're, you know, anytime you can play with a fake French accent, that's a win for me, you know, but. So yeah, this is the Russian green that comes out of the set. And I love these paints. I love MIG paints for airbrushing. For dry brushing or painting, they'll work, but I'd rather use Vallejo. Another thing that I did, so I'm going to actually put this back in the set because I'm going to use the Vallejo green. It's damn near the same thing. It's damn near the same thing. But if you use these, you can use them right out of the bottle. You don't have to thin them. So we will do some 3-color stuff that we'll airbrush, and we'll use these paints. Let's get the right Russian green here. Or the one I've been using. I got a lot of greens, so this could take a while. And that's with them being sorted. There's Russian green. That's the original one. And they reformulated. And it's ever so slightly different. It's Russian uniform, not to be confused with that one. Good thing I have these sorted by colors or we'd never find them. That's US Olive Drab. Close but no cigar. The earliest I ever think of doing Germans is basically, and I haven't done them yet, is Africa Corps. So anything before like March 41, count me out. I'm not doing German stuff that's earlier than that. Bronze green. Well, I may just do that, use that one and move on. It's damn near the same color. I may have put it in the wrong place, and that's why I'm not going to find it. There it is. That's the redo. It was in the wrong place. It was with the blues. See what happens when you don't have segregation? In your paints. In your paints, people. In your paints. But you know, I like the Viejo. I like the AK. The AK are better for airbrushing because you don't have to thin them, or I don't have to thin them with the settings that I use. I have to thin the Viejo. And the problem with thinning the Viejo is you either thin them somewhere else in another container and then pour the container into your cup for airbrushing, which means you're wasting some paint and making a mess. Or you just do what I do, which you're not supposed to do. Hey, look, I break all the rules. I take the tags off of mattresses. I use the paint on the inside of a paint cup. Hey, I bought it. I can do whatever the hell I want with it. That's how it works in my America. No big brother for me. But I just mix it in I just put a little bit in the cup. You don't need a lot. And then mix it in with I have a needle that I use out there. And because I don't want to waste that paint. It's stupid to be wasteful, you know. And then you have to buy it sooner than you would normally need to. The other thing I did is I used the wet palette, which I hadn't used in a long time, yesterday, and I cleaned it, and I didn't want to get mold on it again because I've been having some mold issues, and so I just let it out air dry. So look what happened. This thing turns into damn near leather. We'll add some water to it. I'm actually going to go ahead and take one of your guys' suggestions and use distilled water because I got a big jug of it here, and we can do that as well. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Where's my jug? I think it's in here. Yeah. And some people always wonder, how wet do you get this? Well, you're about to find out. So let's see if we can't make them. The pennies are down here supposedly to do some kind of chemical reaction to. I've never done it this way. It's always done under a faucet. So if I overdo it, I'm kind of effed. Let's run this down over here. Let's leave it like this for now. To make sure we don't overdo it, or we got a problem. You got to really overdo it though for it to be a problem. Yes, it needs some more. Okay, so this is about how I like it. You know, it's wet, and when you press down, you get some to come up. So we're just going to put, you know, so here's the thing. I could either dry this out and have no mold issues, or try to save this little bit of paint that was still alive and close it up. And I figure I'm better off wasting that little bit of paint and that one and the white, but making sure there's no mold issues. And the mold issues are just, you know, I'm not worried about health reasons or whatever. You know, I'm not going to breathe enough of this stuff in that it's an issue. I work in a much more toxic environment that I'm worried about more things there than, and I'm not really around them, but still, I'm more worried about concrete dust than I am about freaking mold from something that occasionally happens. Okay. And I've had that jug for 5 years, so that's some of the same stuff that I use for the to make the Jesus juice. I'll put a link on his channel. It's kind of a long video, but I thought it was pretty useful. All right, so we're going to set this off to the side because we're going to use this when we get back to the house. Let's go ahead and, even though we can clean this with hand sanitizer, we don't want it to be a waste of time. So, do we have one of these that is ugly? Probably this one. This one's got some stuff on it. Let's bring this out. Okay, a couple Soviet tanks. We're going to use, so this is the old Vallejo color. Russian, it used to be called Russian green, and for some reason I probably bought this in the early 2000s, and I still have some. It's probably a third of it in there. And this is the new one, which is called Camouflage Olive Green. And they're both code 894. RLM 80. And they look, this is the thing, you guys see something totally different than what I do, and it's just because of this light, which is amazing, but it really distorts things for you guys. And it's really prevalent when I show pictures of my house on Facebook in pictures and what you guys see here. You guys are getting kind of a raw deal. It actually looks better than what you guys are seeing, but not to toot my own horn, but that happens all the time. Oh, it looks a lot better, and yeah, because this light is so powerful. It's not ideal for taking photos. So we're going to take some of this stuff and we're going to do kind of a dry brush with it. So I don't necessarily want it to absorb here per se. Let's just put it somewhere we can access. And I definitely don't want it on the wet palette because we don't need to keep this wet. We need to dry this up a little bit, if anything. All right, and then we're going to grab a brush, that one that's not too expensive. For you, those of you that get that reference. If you don't get that reference, you probably shouldn't be on this channel. And here, yeah, see this looks a lot greener. This has more yellow in it. So it's, and we're just going to go over it. Now, why do I do it this way? Well, I can airbrush it and then do a dark wash to put it in the corners, in the holes, or just do this. And I actually figured this out because of not having an airbrush at the time, and I really like the way it works. So it's one step I can take. The wash steps are a pain because they take a while to dry. And you can't just keep working on stuff. You have to stop what you're doing and let things dry. So we're not really worried about the tracks. And these are going to have interchangeable turrets, so you get two holes in this set, and they can both be KV1s or they can both be KV2s, but they give you 4 turrets. So it's literally the best of both worlds. It took some severe searching to find a set of these, as they are, for some reason, really hard to find. This particular set that has the KV2s in them, I don't know why. I don't know whether they... I think it's the only set that has multiple turrets. And maybe they realized they were losing their ass on it and stopped manufacturing it. Which I hope that's not the case, because I'd like to have like 2 more sets of these, but if I don't, I don't. And the cool thing about it is this is dry in a moment. So we do this, then we give it a brown wash, some kind of a brown wash. Then we dry brush this color on again. Then we add a little bit of a lightener, which it would normally be white for me, but after watching somebody's video whose name is, I can't remember who he is. He has a YouTube channel with a lot of videos and he posts frequently. He decided to use dark sand, so that's what I tried it and I'm like, oh, that really works. So I used dark sand, added to this a little bit, and hit the highlights, and a little bit more dark sand to hit the highlights of that. And then we do decals, or in my case, hand painting the slogans. Both of these will have hand painted slogans, which are one of those fun things that I like to do. I don't mind using decals, but you could spend a fortune looking for a right decal. And then you gotta, you gotta order it, it's gotta come in, your project's on hold until it comes in, just all kinds of problems. If you paint your own, you're good to go. And I've done quite a few videos where I was painting slogans on the Russian tanks. We'll be painting these, we will be painting these live as well. I'm gonna try to use the Army Painter Strong Tone on this one instead of Agrax Earthshade and see how it varies differently. It should be Agrax Earthshade second model, because the first one is different. This one that's available now is very, 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 very sticky, and that's not a good thing in my opinion. It gets very tacky very fast. And my problem with Games Workshop is that my biggest problem with Games Workshop is that they have good products, and then at some point they start cutting corners, and they cut corners and raise price, and that's just, those two things shouldn't be compatible. They shouldn't be compatible with each other. Either you're going to cut corners so that you can keep the price the same so you don't piss people off, or you raise prices because everything costs more. People's wages have gone up in the last 5 years, and cost of everything else, of running a business. But several times they have a good product and it's been changed, and it's not for the better. So maybe that's just the products that I end up getting from them. But their paint used to be awesome in the 80s. They went to the ones that had somebody had a name for them, like a bolt cover or whatever. I should have kept one, so I know what I'm talking about, so I could show you what I was talking about. But their paint got awful. I literally used their paint one time, came back a few months later, it was no good. It dried out. Now the new containers they have are actually just fine, So hopefully they don't change those back. All right, there's one hole. Let's do the other hole. Now, you might be a Games Workshop fanboy, and it may be because the games you play are made by them. Well, then they've got you right by they got you by the short hairs. But I am a miniature manufacturer agnostic player. I don't have to buy necessarily one person's figures. But all my early World War II figures were primarily painted with Games Workshop paints or Citadel paints. Back then it was Citadel. I mean, it may have always been Games Workshop, but the prominent labeling on the paint in the early 90s was Citadel. And that's what I would call them forever. I think in the last couple of years I finally got out of calling them Citadel, but yeah, Citadel paints. Happy Sunday, studio. Yours is almost over with, unfortunately. Although that might be a good thing. You may be looking forward to going to work. I'm not. You work at a game store, okay? So the interesting thing about working at a game store is that you can, in your case, actually be defined by what you do for a living. I'm not, But if I worked at a game store, I would be more closely defined with what I did for a living than what I do now. Remember, the Games Workshop are a PLC. What the hell is a PLC? And are beholden to their shareholders. A public trading company, the business model is constant change, building in obsolescence. They are not unique in the gaming industry. Collectible card games, anyone? Yeah. Well, I am a really slow-ass painter, and their business model isn't really compatible with me. And you know what? Here's the beauty of it is, they don't make products, even if their business model was compatible with me, I don't do fantasy and science fiction. So I just like their paints, you know? Before they came on the scene with these type bottles, okay? What did we use? Poly-S. And Poly-S do not seal the paints. The sealing system isn't worth a damn. You had glass, and you had a metal lid, and you had this little piece of cardboard that was supposedly keeping it. It didn't seal worth a damn. It was great paint. I used a lot of it, and it wouldn't last. This stuff, I've had this stuff freaking 30 years, and I'll probably have it another 30 years, So when these came on the scene, I'm like, this paint's amazing. It even smells good. It does. And, so I bought it up. Back when it was probably $2 about. I think it was like $2. I think it was $1.99, something like that, which was expensive for the day. The new batch, including Seraph and Sepia, is not as good as the old Citadels. Public Limited Company. Yeah. Well, I call things as I see them. They might, if people have a good product, they have a good product. If they don't, they don't. And especially when people they make something good. Why did you fuck with it? I have a job where things are constantly in flux and there's chaos and there's nothing I can do about it. So I certainly don't want to create chaos by my own doing. Why you gotta fuck with things? So then we'll get to the turrets. We'll let this dry a little bit afterwards, and then we'll try some of that strong tone. As a game store, I'm salesman, janitor, tea lady. Hopefully you don't dress up for being the tea lady. Purchaser, marketer, runner, designer, shop muscle in a game. Shop muscle. Hopefully you don't have to do that. Guest relations officer. That's a lot of things to define myself, but what I do, yeah. Well, you can quit at any time. I know. I worked at a hobby store in my late teens, early 20s. And the store was the business of a gentleman who passed away. And his family continued to try to run it. But it's difficult. It's even back then. I'm sure worse now. At least in the United States, it's worse now. Back then, it was just difficult to kind of make everything work. Eventually they moved on. They did keep it going another 7 years, but this was a business that the owner had done his whole life, basically. And he passed away, way too early. Actually, he was younger than I am now. So that's way too early to be freaking dying. But even back then, you would see, and this is in the early 90s, people would mail order. Remember, mail order in the 90s isn't mail order now. I am a fan of mail order now. Unfortunately, I'd rather go to a store and buy it, but stores don't have things. So, you know, you can get stuff same day, mail order, and their return policy is good. You know, if the return policy sucked, if it was a pain to return things, yeah, I wouldn't mail order anything, you know, but. And the return policy is just there so you as a consumer don't get taken advantage of due to incompetence of them shipping you the wrong item or what have you. You know, it's not that I want to use it and then, you know, hey, return it. Can I get my money back? No. But even in the early 90s, people would mail order, wait several weeks for something just to save 10%. And that's a whole lot of risk and pain in the ass to just save 10%. And you're not ordering something that costs $10,000 where 10%'s, you know, $1,000. So, yeah, I don't understand it, but some people are that way. Some people are extra thrifty. Let's put it that way. Well, I can guarantee you the same people that have that mentality of being extra thrifty are not the same folks that now go and play, what's the terminology for they do in video games? Microtransactions. Where it's like, hey, here's this game you can play for free, but if you want this stuff without working for them and playing the game, you can throw $30 at me and we'll give you, you know, a couple of tanks or something. You know, that are just virtual. You don't literally get anything. Those are kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. Mitch and I have talked about that. He plays a free game or whatever. He's not anything I would play, but one of those games you play on your phone that I like to call mental masturbation. You know, just something to kill the time. And it's something you could throw money at it, or you could play it for free. And he's like, I wouldn't pay money for this. I said, I agree. I'm not paying money for something you can play free. You know, they do that same thing. Diablo 4 just came out, and I've been playing a fair amount of that in the last week when I can't paint. And there's microtransactions in that. You can buy things. You know, why? Look, the whole point of the game for me is to find shit. You know, it's a treasure hunt. If you're having the stuff handed to you, why even play the game? For me, you know, maybe other people enjoy, you know, getting respect or something by having cool stuff. Whatever. Microtransactions just don't. Whoop. Did we not glue this in? And we may not have glued this in on purpose. Well, let me see. Oh, we didn't glue this in. Well, here's the advantage of not gluing it in. We can paint the backside. I'm not gluing it in through the weathering stage either. Just come in here. We're not going to hit everything. I've forgotten whether or not I had done that or not. And might as well paint the inside of this, even though nobody will see it. This is what I should have done when I airbrushed, is taken this and done it. But none of this shit's going to be visible. It's going to make painting the track a lot quicker. Not necessarily better, just quicker. So, you know, studio, what I think the hardest thing of all those things that you listed, I don't think you listed the item, at least in this country, that I think is the hardest thing, which would keep me personally from doing my own business, is all the government regulation. You know, because it's, you know, you can go to school and you can figure out, okay, you know, I need to have this much of a profit margin. You know, you could balance it and figure out, okay, I'm bringing this much in, but this is going out. All that stuff makes sense. But then you've got all this shit you got to do just because the government's involved. And I'm not saying you don't need any government. I'm just saying that, they don't make it easy. They don't make it easy. And that's a turn off. I would never have my own business because of that. It's just exhausting. And it's not just like, okay, well, you got to keep track of your taxes or whatever, your money in, money out. Oh, there's all kinds of other stuff. You got to have the right OSHA signs up, and oh, you have this one, and it's out of, you have the latest one. All that nonsense that they came up with just so they can make it difficult for people that are just mom and pops trying to turn a profit. I'm just not interested in. Spent months on Diablo 2. The fear of this new Diablo is real. I won't get time to paint. So the funny thing is that when my wife moved out, we get a new one every 10 years. I don't know if you noticed it, but it's about every 10 years. So we've got this one for about 10 years. At least it was about 10 years between regular Diablo and Diablo 2, maybe a little bit less, maybe 8 or something like that. And it was about 10 years between, or maybe even a little bit more, between Diablo 2 and 3. I am not one of those people that thinks that Diablo 3 was worse than 2. I don't. I think video games, unlike movies, generally move the ball forward, and they're better than the previous ones. I am never playing a game where I have to go to town and buy freaking arrows, okay? That's stupid. That is just a colossal waste of time. It's not like you got to manage how much money you're going to have so you have enough for arrows. So it just ends up being something that you're, spending a lot of time doing, And so yeah, I wasn't a fan of that from Diablo 2. But my wife, when she moved into town, when she was looking for a job, she got kind of hooked into it. And that's the only game that of course, she's not hooked into games like I am, but that's the one game she will play with me is the Diablos. So we played Diablo 3 a lot together. And we played 4 some. I've been soloing most of it. Don't love the character choices. I'm tired of that many people like playing barbarians. I mean, the barbarian's a little too like, I don't know. I like the rogue. Of all the new characters, the rogue is my favorite one, and that's the one I'm playing with the wife. So I've been playing the necromancer off and on, which I'm not really a fan of, but it's just a manager. But anyhow, it's the one game, that series is the one game that I will play, and I have done this. I have played every single character and beaten the game at every difficulty level. With Diablo 1, I played all 3. I maxed all of them out. I beat all 3 through hell level or whatever it was. I think there was 3 difficulty levels. I think Diablo 2 also had 3 difficulty levels. Played all the characters. Did I have a favorite? Yes, I like the Amazon the best in Diablo 2. Did I play all the other ones? Yes, I still played them, because you get to experience the game in different ways, If you don't play certain characters, you don't know anything about, what cool abilities they have. Same thing with Diablo 3, The Assassin's the one I liked in Diablo 3 the best. Did I play the other ones? Yeah, I maxed them all out. Did I play all the difficulties levels in Diablo 3? Well, you really can't, because they have multiple torment levels, and some of them are just excruciatingly difficult. But I did play torment levels until it gets to a point where it's just like, okay, well, this is just too difficult. But I get a lot of value for the buck in those games, as opposed to. I was talking to somebody yesterday, like, what do you mean you play all the characters? I said, how do you not? You're missing out. But anyhow, it's a treasure hunt game. And I don't find it's very grindy because you get a lot of drops. So if you're going from point A to point B and you could find something really cool, I don't know that that's really that grindy. I don't like, I don't like games where you have to do uber grindy things. I don't think that that's one of them. just going from point A to point B, encountering people, and they might have something really cool that falls. I don't have to go and kill somebody that has the absolute best thing. It's not like I'm going to fight other people. I'm not interested in doing that, but I get a good value out of those games. Some people may not. I know someone that only plays one character, and that's it. And when we're done, that's the only character they play. Well, say you play a sorcerer, you're never going to get to use any cool swords. If all you do is swords, you don't get to use cool staffs. Yeah, the world is pretty big. So here's my, how many hours have I put in it this week? Quite a bit. And I played both betas, so I've probably put over 20 hours in the game already. Maybe, I haven't timed myself, maybe closer to 40. My lead character is level 36, I think. But the game is big. The game scales to your level. So you don't have one of those things that you have to do them in a certain order. Because like if you go back and if you skip easy quests and I do all side quests. I don't go like, well, I'm just going to go down the main path. Because then you're not bulked up enough and get your ass kicked by somebody. And you don't even stand a chance. Besides the side quests are fun. Why wouldn't you want to do them? The map is very big. You do encounter other people, but you don't encounter them in the actual dungeons. So it's not very distracting. I really have no interest in interacting with people that I don't know personally, because they can just disconnect. I mean, why even bother? It's just not a thing that I care for, that I'm interested in. I haven't wrong green. Not that it would have made a huge difference, but go away. Get over there. I haven't replayed it enough to realize, but I think the dungeons are not random. I think that the layout of them is not random. I think they're always a certain way. Where stuff is and what they drop is random, but I think they're always a certain floor plan. When you go into this cave, it's always shaped like this. It seems that needs to be the case. However, there is that's not necessarily that big of a deal because there's just so many other random things. I think that I'm level 36 and I still don't have a horse. You can get horses somehow with one of the quests, but I haven't gotten them yet. You don't really need them to travel fast through the land. I mean, the portal system works pretty well. There's a lot of different ways to play each character for sure. I don't like how most of them look. When you go to create a character, it's like there's some ugly looking characters. I'm just saying, there's you're pretty much stuck with whatever they choose. Some of them, it's like, man, I can't wait to put some armor on this guy so I don't have to look at him. The character choice, I'm not a huge fan of. I'm not a fan of the barbarian. I never have been. He's a little too, I don't know. It just doesn't really appeal to me. At least they put the rogue in. At least they put what I like to call a bow bitch in. That's my favorite type of character. But like I said, I play them all. I hope that they add more. Even if they add just 3 more, that would be cool. I don't really like playing a necromancer because I feel like I'm a bad guy. I don't like playing game. Oh, here's the biggest thing. It scales to your difficulty. So, or most things scale to your difficulty. So when you're traveling from point A to point B, as you start getting higher in level, the things you encounter randomly are also higher in level. So what does that mean? Well, that means that every time you're fighting somebody, it's a worthy fight. And not because it's super challenging, but because you're getting decent experience from it. It's not like, well, I can't go back in this one area because the creatures are too easy and I'll just be wasting my time and not even getting any experience off of it. Everything is scaled pretty much all the time. It seems like some quests are scaled even proportionally to be a couple levels higher than you. Like you'll see, it's like, okay, this is a level 30 thing. All right, well, I'll get to level 30 and then it'll be, then it'll be balanced. And as soon as you do that, then it's up to level 32. So it's always scaled to your level, seems like. So think of that as a good thing, because you're doing meaningful stuff all the time, instead of like, well, there's no point in doing this quest now because it's going to generate no revenue or no experience. Money is really hard to come by, but there's not really a whole lot of things to buy anyways, it seems like, maybe except upgrades. Because I basically melt everything down into deconstruct stuff into materials, because if you don't do that, how the hell are you going to get materials, right? So all my magic items end up being deconstructed into materials. I like the system. It's a treasure hunt. It is... I will get tired of things that are first-person shooters a lot easier. They become stressful. Diablo, on the other hand, actually sometimes puts me to sleep. It's so relaxing. I've fallen asleep many a time in the middle of combat because it's relaxing. As strange as that may seem. Not every combat, but... The other thing that's common is every single time and I don't know why every game has always had the Butcher, but they do. The Butcher is literally the hardest character you have to try to beat when you encounter him for the first time. It's literally like, how the hell is this guy so difficult? Like, the first time you encounter Diablo on any of the platforms, you can kick his ass pretty good, okay? You encounter the Butcher, he killed me. I'm like, what the hell? Wasn't expecting this. Like, why is this guy so freaking difficult? Yeah, so, but anyhow, if you're a fan of the series, you probably get it. It's really good. People didn't like Diablo 3 because it wasn't dark enough. I didn't see that, but okay. I thought Diablo 3 was infinitely better than Diablo 2. The storyline's only so important. Ends up being a treasure hunt. So, it's, I'm not surprised that I like it, because I played all the betas. And the betas actually ran pretty well, considering they were betas. Alright, so we're going to let this dry a little bit, because we don't want to put this wash on it and it wipe the paint off. If it does, it's not the end of the world, but we're going to set these guys off to the side. And set this off to the side too. We don't need to look at this thing. And bring the wet palette back. Work on some of the inside of the buildings. And make sure we don't have any green on us. The best way to do that is just take some hand sanitizer and get that shit off. Look at that. Amazing. Unbelievable. Used to leave all the items I got back in town and never sold them anyways. Yeah, money's... what's the money the most useful for? Upgrading your things so you can do stuff. Yeah, I really like it. It feels like you've done it all before, but also like not in a bad way. So. And it's the only game I've seen ported to console, and it works better on console than on the PC. So we play on console, and multiple people can be on the console, and somehow it stretches the screen. It's really well done. They really know what they're doing. I'm a big Blizzard fan. As long as it's a game that I like. For instance, I'm not a fan of Overwatch. I played it a little bit. It's just too silly. It's not for me. I wasn't a fan of StarCraft. Is it a good game? Sure. I just don't like the theme. But I am a Blizzard fan, so usually when they put something out, and it's not on phones only, I did play that. They just wanted to make money off of microtransactions off stupid people. And I played it some, and it's free, and I don't play it again. It just seems very... the interaction, if you played Diablo Immortal, and the interaction that you have with other people in that world is a little too intense. There's too much distraction, and they're constantly showing up when you don't want them to. That's not the case on Diablo 4. They show up, but it's not like they're all over the place all the time. So, like in your way, like what the hell's this? So we're going to paint the outside of this wood. That's what we're going to focus on doing, because I haven't done that on either one of the two levels. You know, if you're not a fan of if you're not a fan of microtransactions, which I'm not, all you got to do is just keep people. If people wouldn't do them, then they wouldn't make games for them. So there's some out there. There's some 13-year-old or older with daddy's credit card, and they're not paying for them. I can't imagine somebody spending $100 on like stuff that's virtual. It just doesn't make any sense. But there's a lot of nonsensical people out there, I guess. Some kid that has an allowance of, I never had an allowance at all of any amount. That's like sets you up for government dependence. Like, oh, I don't have to work. I'll just wait for my next allowance to come in. Hey, if I wanted something, I had to work, or you didn't get shit. And then you had to be around people that did have stuff, and then you feel bad. We're going to leave some of this black showing, I think. I'm not sure whether any of this has been burned or fell down or whatever, but that's how we're going to spin this one. But it's funny, all the video games that I play, and I don't play them that much, but I am passionate about the ones I do play. Nobody I know seems to play the same ones. They always play other things that just don't captivate me. Usually either Fallout, some version of Fallout, or some version of like Skyrim. I'm just not a Bethesda fan. You know, just like I am a Blizzard fan, Bethesda just doesn't. I'm not captivated by the way they do things. That's fine. That's why there's different companies. I always found it amusing that you use real money to buy a costume for your character in the game just so you look different. Yeah. Yeah, so the new Diablo, one thing you can do is you can do that transmorg thing, which means when you melt down a piece of armor, you can then change your current piece of armor to look like something that you melted down, which I don't do because now that armor that looks this way on your screen, when you put it on, looks totally different. Your whole point in getting another piece of armor is go find one, or buy one, within the game. But the most thing I do is sometimes somebody will have like a stupid helmet. So I'm like, okay, at least in Diablo 3, you can like block, I don't know if you could do it in 4. I haven't seen how you can do it yet. You could say, don't just show my head normally without a helmet on. And I'll do that sometimes. But that's when your character was semi-attractive. Now with these unattractive characters, you want to hide them under armor. Yeah, my assassin was a good-looking character. I don't want to hide her face. Just cute. You spend a lot of time playing one of these games. Who wants to look at an ugly character for hours on end? I don't. What are you wrong? Just added some different. I don't know exactly what's in the flooring. Just adding a little bit of something. The new druid characters, man, that's a rough looking character. There's nothing you can do to that guy. He's extremely mountain like. He's probably more mountain man looking than the barbarian. All right, let's go to the other section, which is who knows where, because I don't have my glasses in. Here, hidden in plain sight. And we'll probably come back and do the wooden pieces, the actual wood. We're just kind of doing the in between floor stuff here. Maybe one of the reasons that Diablo isn't more popular is you can only play humans. That's why I like it. I don't care what color you are. I want to play a human. Humans are for real. The other races are made up. don't think this side is visible, or this one. It's just part of this one. Well, the frogs are having a field day again. Little tree frogs, by the way. They're extremely cute. I know people that are grown-ass people that are scared of tree frogs. They're like the cutest thing. I mean, I don't want them crawling in my mouth. I don't want to step on them. Other than that, and I don't want them in my house. You know, other than that, they're pretty cool. They eat bugs, man. They're my friend. Sometimes they get a little noisy. But I'm a frog fan. Anything that I don't mind picking up that eats things I do mind picking up, I'm a fan of. I don't pick up frogs, they'll scare the poor little guys. All right, let me go get some liquids. I'll be right back. Yeah, I missed my Amazon character. I think my Amazon character was named Hesperia, if I remember correctly. That sounds about right. All right, we've got some wood parts. So let's get the wood color here. Oh, you know what? I'm going about this a little bit wrong. I need to back up a little bit. Let's paint the whole piece of wood. in this color before we start making it look wooden-like. Because this is definitely a beam that's hanging out here. Well, but I like playing those type of games with just random people, especially random people that don't know how to name characters. You know, random people, you're in some party and some guy's named Johnny Five. Like, it's a medieval thing. Why would you be named Johnny Five? Why would there be a number? Why would there be a numeral in your name to begin with? It's silly, you know? It's are you not creative enough to do that? It's not difficult. It's like, man, I hope you don't have kids because you're going to give them a silly ass name. I just find it strange that when people are given an opportunity to be creative about something, they punt. You know, here's your opportunity to do something creative. Nah, don't know how to do that. All right, well, in Soviet Russia, you're going to work for you're going to be building T-34s and building them exactly the way we tell you to. You're a good fit for that then. And for the record, I would rather this building had not been destroyed. But I feel like I'm learning some valuable lessons here painting a destroyed building. And I really am looking forward to getting some 3D printed ones. We'll get there. I gotta prove that I can use the things I already have before I go and get more. And that's without the wife saying anything about it. I'm just for myself, man. I hate buying stuff and not doing anything with it. That's stupid. We've all done plenty of that. Doesn't feel good. Now, the one thing about the destroyed building is that I will give it credit for is I don't feel like I have to do a lot of detailing on these walls. They can be kind of like, maybe not like that. You know, we're going to add a little bit more than that, but I don't feel like I have to make them super detailed. To be honest, the detail on some of these kids is amazing. I built lots of foreground when they were still around. I looked at getting some foreground stuff, which is still available in a couple different places, like there's Stalingrad buildings. And after building this, I don't want to have to create so much extra rubble and stuff inside to give them personality now that I've done this. And I don't have anything against them, but if I put these type of buildings and those type of buildings, both of them on the gaming surface, those are going to look very basic. So that's the only reason I didn't get them recently with the credit. So we got a box of goodies coming in tomorrow, supposedly. So we should do an unboxing tomorrow night, Eastern Standard Time. All 1/72nd scale stuff. Things that I got in from a trade that I think I got a good value for it. It is just not something that if you need to get something in a hurry, that's not the way to do it, because it is taking a long time to get out of my hands into somebody else's to come back and use the credit and have them send it to you. You know, it's been a good month. So if you're in a hurry to get something, yeah, it's not the way to do it. But I traded in things that I've had for decades that I'm never going to use. That is just taking up space. So you like that they have the same model damaged and new. Yeah, it's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Is this thing foreground? I get foreground and Sarissa mixed up because they both use the same stuff. I think my little building is foreground. I think this little hen house / pigsty is foreground. And it comes like pre-painted. Yeah, that's not gonna cut it for me. We're gonna repaint this. Where's the roof? It's here somewhere. Anyhow, I think this is foreground. And it's put together with white glue, so we're definitely going to airbrush it to get a good coating on here. But you can tell that the crevices of the little roof thing are actually, because it's painted, the thing that should be the darkest is actually the lightest. So we're going to have to make sure that those cracks definitely have black in them. Yeah, the fact that these are pre-colored is zero value for me. It doesn't benefit me any. I don't really care about that. I'm just concerned. I think this will end up painting up really well. I need to be really careful so that I don't use paint that's too watery and then it reactivates all these glue things. I don't have a lot of experience with painting MDF. Yeah, it's well made. I mean, the bricks are the stonework is really well made. So we're gonna get this stonework that's gonna match the stonework on the main house. So we have options. So yeah, the fact that this is pre-colored is zero value to me. It'd be like for me paying, hey, you can buy this tank pre-painted. Okay, who cares? I'm just gonna repaint it. You know, so all the stuff looks consistent. Foreground's history reads like a soap opera. Such a mess. So that's a shame. That's a shame. But the Stalingrad builds are really good. But I'm not a Stalingrad fan, so I don't, especially after I've seen, I think somebody in Australia put on a game. It's on the YouTube or whatever, that is just mouth-watering how good it is. They've got freaking railroad cars and they freaking have a Heinkel that's crashed in there. Freaking red brick dust everywhere. Just salivatingly good. And I'm thinking, these guys are probably not playing a set of rules that is worthy of this game. But, you know, people can play whatever rules they want. But if you have that amount of detail, the game ought to be, like, really detailed. The way I'm thinking. But that's just me. So let's do the walls. We're going to do the walls here, and then we're going to paint the doors. And this door came cast with a hole in it. We're going to paint it like it's broken, like somebody kicked the bottom of the door in. It's kind of a subtle detail. But actually, before I do that, I'm going to see what these two levels look like on the building. Yeah, the interesting thing about soap operas is, as someone who comes from a background who doesn't have a whole lot of personal drama, it's kind of weird to have that sort of thing. And you guys, again, aren't seeing the right colors. You're seeing something totally different. Maybe not totally different, but significantly different. All right, what are we looking at here on your screen? Yeah, you see this edge here on this floor? I'm going to change that. It's a little too dark. It needs to be a little lighter than that. But looking pretty good, I think. You know, like I said, there's every single part of this is going to be playable. If you look at the top of the roof here, that's the attic where they keep the grandmother there and the hidden radio. There's going to be a, I'm going to make a cardboard cutout that sits off to the side, and it'll have spots there for the windows, kind of like a floor plan for like a house, right? And when you move through that door, you know, you can, you know, there's no door stopping you. I mean, you got freaking grenades and stuff like that. You can get through that door, but you physically can't. This whole piece is solid. So off to the side will be a place when you walk in, just like when you're playing Axis and Allies. I can't get that many people on Gibraltar. Okay, so here's this little spot off to the side that when they move in there, they're there. So some of the range is still available from their parent company. Uh-oh, I won't touch them with a barge pole. Should I not buy them either because they're a bunch of communists or something? I don't know. I haven't heard about it. I don't really hear about drama. Just like the one guy that was making a video about, that I mentioned last week, that said about, you know, this company that was gonna tell this manufacturer, hey, give me this amount of money or I'm gonna get a bad review for you. I don't hear about that stuff. I don't believe people are that wicked, and unfortunately I'm always surprised. Yeah, so looking pretty good. I may tinker with this floor a little bit. It's looking a little too, it looks better to me than it does on that screen. It doesn't look as new to me as it does on that screen, especially this middle floor. I'm looking at what you guys see on the screen. It looks like they just put it in. It looks like Pergo floor they just put in. But we may tinker with that a little bit. I know exactly what I would need to do to make that a little bit better. So like I said, I'm giving myself a month to get this into play. But before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and put the wash on the KVs. So that's setting. Okay, set that over here. Put that somewhere there it doesn't get damaged. All right, let's put this this thing back so that if we make a mess, it's easier to clean up. And we're going to wash these things. And we're going to use the dark shade for the first time on a vehicle. Strong tone, sorry. Strong tone, as opposed to how much Agrax do I even have left? I've got this little bit. I think that's the new one because it's a smaller bottle. The older bottle is this one. I've got this much in Nuln Oil. I don't use it that often, so I don't cover anything with Nuln Oil. I think this is all the Agrax I have left, so Strong tone it is. And let's use a different brush. F it, let's use a new one. And I'm going to actually apply it directly on the vehicle and then swish it around from there. I think that's how I did the floor. Or at least put it in different spots. All right, now let's swish this around. And I do need to go to the store and buy more of this stuff before they change the formula on it. Does it really work great on the cobblestone? That's probably the thing that impressed me the most. I was not looking forward to how that was potentially going to turn out. And I don't mind this pooling a little bit. And this feels like, it doesn't have much of a smell. This feels like it's a lot more made of what the paint's made out of instead of whatever the hell the Agrax is made out of. Very, very sticky. Museum Miniatures Cavalry or One Piece? I think every one that I have is One Piece. And Museum Miniatures Cavalry, at least the old school ones, I'm talking about the old school. I really don't know. I don't know much about the Z range, but the old ones are definitely a One Piece, which I don't really mind. I mean, I mix figures in and out anyway, so it doesn't really bother me. They're kind of quirky looking. I don't mean that in a bad way. You just have to kind of go with understanding that, you know, they look unusual sometimes. Probably should have done the inside first. Oh well, no big deal. Nothing that a little bit of hand sanitizer can't take care of. Looking forward to doing some research on some of these slogans. Communist talking points. And it'll be interesting to see how this compares to the other one. You know, it's a lot of this is just really, really subtle. It's just a way of adding a little bit of modulation, which was a word that didn't exist in the common miniature vocabulary 30 years ago. Or if it did, it certainly wasn't thrown around like it is now. What's the other one? Zenithal. Zenithal's the other one. That sounds like something different. What's wrong with that guy? He's on Zenithal. Somebody get him his Zenithal. I did do the running gear on both. Let's do the running gear first. Behind the running gear. I just saved some time doing this with it being separated. I tried the Zenithal thing on what was it I tried it on? The dinosaurs. I don't know that it's worth that amount of time. It's just really time consuming. Might be helpful for newer folks that are getting into it, but After you've been doing this for a while, you've kind of established what works for you and what you like. I don't mind trying new things, but I'm always leery that it's, you think, oh, I'm gonna try something new, so it'll be better. It's not necessarily. That's not necessarily the case. As Tick would say, but is that really the case? I still haven't watched his video about how he's changing his channel. I forgot what the hell. I'm a big fan of his videos. He makes you look at things different than the way that we grew up looking at things, and I think that's valuable. Now, he devotes way too much effort to worrying about what communists think about his channel. Although Nazis probably complain about his channel too, but I haven't really seen those comments. Seems to be a pretty even-handed reporter as far as I'm concerned. At least it gives you kind of food for thought of maybe looking at things from other angles that when we grew up learning about the Second World War wasn't really a way to the stuff was written. Okay, running gear wise, not worried about the backside too much. Let's get all the fronts here. They did a really good job of making these things molded like that's underweight. And this is how it comes. That's pretty amazing. They can make good shit in China. You just have to find it. I always thought these were Russian kits because they have a high amount of Russian things, which is kind of unusual. Most of the World War II stuff is very German-centric. But, hey, the Germans need other people to fight too, so it's kind of nice having somebody that has a high amount of Soviet things. But it's a Chinese company, this one and S model, and both of them are on this. I like S model better because you get decals with them, and they really go together almost without glue. It's pretty amazing. And this company, Pegasus, really kind of, I question whether or not their plastic was very durable because it's almost transparent-like at times. It almost looks like stained glass. And I had my doubts about it, but they're pretty solid. They're pretty solid. They go together really well. They go together a lot better than they look like they would go together. You look at the plastic and like, oh, these aren't going to go together well at all. And but no, they fit pretty good. They fit pretty well. I just don't know why this particular set is so hard to get a hold of, or was so hard to get a hold of. Why'd that shift? I don't think that was a loose thing. Okay. Now this just adds a little bit of coloration. So it's just not green and black. You've got some brownage in there. But getting back to museum, I'm a fan of museum miniatures. I like them. They are historically they are probably the quickest shipper of anyone that I've ever encountered. Essex is probably number two. Essex is pretty. They're pretty on the ball. And I used to hate Essex miniatures because of buying army packs. You buy them in individual packs, make them up however you want. Sure, it's not the best value. I don't care. You'll have extra figures. I don't care. It's not like they're going to rise in rebellion while I'm asleep or something and come slit my throat, you know. But they are. See, this would be super tacky if this was Agrax, and it's not. Essex has some decent castings. Just sometimes the ones you get in your army pack, and somebody said, well, you can contact them and get them to fix it. I don't want to do all that. It's a pain in the ass. How about just give me the right figures, or how about I buy my own damn right figures? You know, but Essex makes plenty of good castings. Sometimes it's not apparent by the pictures on their website. I think that the best thing you can do is, even better than having a pro person paint them, like Legio Heroica. Whoever painted the Legio Heroica figures on their website needs an award named after them. But shy of that, just do how AB does it. Just give them kind of just show them as they are, or give them a really thin black wash to make the details so you can see them. That's it. So, but that would, having somebody decide who you paint in the army, that's not that would be my dream job. What do? I sit around and go through all the Essex figures and make army packs for people. Well, there's not a whole lot of money in that. Okay, I don't think I'd be able to live on that. And not anybody can do that. You got to kind of have an understanding of what kind of troop types would normally be made up of them. And what's really annoying is Essex makes the right figures many times, and sometimes you don't get them in that pre-made thing, and some people don't care. I just don't want to waste my time that I think is valuable painting stuff that's wrong, or somebody else's interpretation of it. You need some writers, so it has to be Essex. Yeah. Oh, Essex has some solid figures too. They're Normans. I think the Essex Normans are all one-piece castings. Oh yeah, that's looking okay. Now it's turret time. We better get these little alligator clips back. I don't want to leave a fingerprint or something on there. Man, my stomach is just having a field day. Like, you don't like not liking a Coke Zero early in the morning, huh? I did enjoy that day. I sat around and had some scotch with you guys, but I unfortunately don't. Well, fortunately, I don't drink very often. I like to. I just honestly forget about it. I don't like something that makes me sleepy. Although whiskey, scotch doesn't normally make me sleepy. That would be like a beer. But this is like the most relaxing thing I do all day long, so I don't need to relax more. It's all these crevices on this big old cannon. I want to get all this stuff in here. Big old cannon. This is a boomba. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, all this is going to be covered over with dry brush on top of it. I think that's good enough. And then we go to the KV1. Let's try to get this as upright, horizontal as we can. Really doesn't need to be that heavy on the sides. It's got nothing to stick to anyways. Not on these tanks anyways. Clemente Voroshilov. That's a nasty vehicle in 1940. And even 41. A nasty vehicle. If they just had crews with the kind of training the Germans did, that'd be a really deadly vehicle. I don't think they were, at least the KV-1s, I don't think the KV-1s were particularly unreliable. The commander was a loader in that situation. How truly strange. Can't wait to try some of that out with the vehicle rules and see how that all plays. How all the interactions between inside the turret play out on the tabletop. That's really what the rule set that I do really shines. What makes it different from everything else is the timing of when people, load the shell or, get people to do different things. So, you got a German tank commander in a 3-man turret. He doesn't have a job except being the German tank commander. So, when his order comes up, he can order other people to do either to load the gun or fire the gun, depending on who's up next. And if he's the loader, if the commander's the loader like he is in the Russian turret, in the Russian KV turret, because he's the gunner in the T-34, he can't order the gunner or the loader to do their action because he is the guy. You can't use your leadership function on yourself. So that's detrimental. But that's what made the German and the U.S. system and the British system in many of their tanks better, is you had a guy that was free to manage. And I guess the T-34-85, he doesn't have a duty either. So a T-34-85 is going to be a lot more efficient than a T-34-76, just from that viewpoint within the game. And those Soviet tank crews have more experience. They're not totally green. Okay, so this is percolating and setting. Let's take a look and see how. It seems like this one's a little bit more black infused than the Agrax. I think the Agrax a little bit more, has more redness to it. But I don't think it'll make a difference. Most of this ends up getting covered up anyways, so. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, and set these guys off to the side. This is another reason I put on these things. I can just go. And as much as I just like having a couch in this room, it comes in handy for stuff like this. All right, back to this. No, not necessarily. We're going to do the walls in that second thing. So we're going to use craft paint for that. We do not need to put craft paint on a wet palette. It's not worthy. So let's take the mill thing here, and we're going to add some colors that aren't already there. Just for some variety. Nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. Here's a wet palette for the craft paint. It's not wet. Right. Sandstone. Fawn. Country tan. Let's add, what color is this? Raw sienna. It's too close to the wood color. I may keep it, I may add a little bit of that to something. White, definitely gonna need that. Of course, we're gonna make colors, you know. This is just kind of a starting point. I'm gonna break open this Daybreak. No, we're not gonna paint the color of this, but we can have some of this in it. These things are some of the most difficult bottles to open. With this plastic. Alright, I'm gonna put some Daybreak here in a corner. We can have a little bit of yellow blend in, some yellow tones. That one's too much. That one's too much. I don't know what I'm doing here, but it's not my first rodeo. And I really I actually enjoy using the craft paint as, you know, I use this stuff for painting backgrounds and stuff, which I'm due to make a new one. I should make one for a Ukrainian field type one background. Oh, this one's super watery. I don't know why. And this is the stuff, if I'm going to be wasteful on anything, it's going to be this stuff, because this stuff's super cheap to come by. It's almost like too cheap. Like, what are you making this stuff out of that is so cheap? And it's all made in the U.S., supposedly. That's what it says. So, I think with this stuff, we ended up using a more traditional brush shape. But I think I will use this one. All right. Oh, we're gonna need a darkener. Give me a black. I don't think I have a dark brown. it's not open. Well, one of these is open. There it is. I marked the top of it with an X. I don't know what the hell that means now. It's probably some terrain that I did. I used that as the base color. I don't think we need very much of that. All right. So let's work on this one wall here that has the staircase on it. So let's just put some let's see what happens when we add this to it. Are we good? This paint behaves so poorly compared to so much other paint that I have. But it still works fine for this, especially if it's a damaged building. Now, just a little bit of that yellow in there. It actually behaves better dry brushing it than it does wet brushing it. And again, it looks a little bit more yellow to you guys than it does to me. This part's actually really enjoyable for me to do. And it doesn't look as bright as it does on the video. We're just gonna make this room this color. Or it was originally this color, let's put it that way. and then we're probably going to add some white to it and tinker that up. So you've got some different depths of coloration in there, whether it's from wear and tear, it was just a different color. Maybe this is the color that was on the back of when they had the wallpaper up. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the background of it is, but this just allows it to be colorful, but not like really bright. We're not doing like a red room or anything like that. No closet underneath the stairs. Don't have to make that little room. One little guy hiding underneath there. Greetings, programs. I haven't seen Tron. I haven't seen the new one, and I never saw the old one. I remember the old video game, and it didn't make any sense to me because I never saw the movie. Mr. Skylab, good morning to you too. I'm gonna be lazy. I'm gonna paint this other room the same color. We're gonna add white to it a little bit. I talk about movies a lot, but I'm not really a movie person. I can't imagine buying movies that are readily available to be watched. I don't know. I don't want to rewatch anything. I did try watching the new Tron, and then something happened, and I got sidetracked. I never finished it. Isn't that new Indiana Jones movie out? That's got to be awful. I fully expect it to be awful. Need more of this one. There we go. I find science fiction to be really difficult for me to deal with because I feel like there's science in there, right? So there's got to be some like things that make sense. To me, science is things that make sense. sometimes the science fiction that you're presented doesn't really make the most sense. At least for me. I mean, not it's probably in the depends on the person, but generally speaking, most science fiction has something or some things that are just way too outlandish. Sometimes I can overlook them. In the case of, say, BattleTech. Okay, BattleTech is a great game. BattleTech takes place in the future. But the gun ranges, the weapon ranges on these weapons are incredibly more inaccurate than the weapons that we have now. And that's even if you use the Comstar ones. They're not that much more of a difference. So, you can't say, oh, you have a war and everything went to shit and things aren't as accurate anymore. We'll say, okay, well, that's the Comstar ones are just as inaccurate. So, while I think it's a great game, I think that's, maybe there's no way to really do it that way. But, that's the problem I have with, Warhammer 40K. You got to figure it's this big and they only shoot, a couple feet away or something like that? Really bad ranges. Maybe that's not important to some people, but it is for me. Correct. The writers in Hollywood throw scientific terms in without knowing anything about it. Yeah. Some things just could potentially be possible, but I think are way too far-fetched. For example, back in the early 90s, I had several people that I knew that liked watching Next Generation, Star Trek Next Generation. I was never a fan. I wasn't a fan of the first series. I didn't grow up with it. AC-20 is supposedly to beat a 150 millimeter cannon. Cannon range 9 inches on the table. Yep. Yeah, it's a really short howitzer. I don't think a Napoleonic howitzer fires that short. It's for game balance. I get it, and it's a great game. Don't get me wrong. And the port to the computer is one of the best computer games I've ever played. So it's still a fun game, but I just think of science as like things that make sense. It's not religious fiction. It's science fiction. So it needs to be some, groundness. So getting back to Next Generation, I just kind of watched it when I was over at somebody's house because they had to see it. I got to see the next episode. I'm like, well, whatever. I don't like any of these characters, but okay. The Q thing. And I know the Q thing is the whole dialogue is what's interesting about it, but that's just absurd. That's just absurd. And just like that, there's many other absurdities in the Next Generation stuff. And they're probably in a lot of other science fiction as well, but the Q thing. I honestly would like Star Trek if it was more of like a naval game, a naval show where there was more like surface combat, ship combat. Because I could get into that. That's cool. I mean, their uniforms are still silly, and some of their races are not what I would have created, but I at least can appreciate the ships. There's a Star Trek game that I played quite a bit. For the life of me, I can never remember what it's called. I always miscall it. Empires at War or something like that. But it was basically a real-time naval, ship simulator. And I loved it. And it was really well done. It was a little glitchy at times, but it was really well done. You could name your ships. I think you could build them. I don't know. You could capture them and shit. And there was a lot to do. Space monsters. You could fight around a planet. It was a really cool game. It was just kind of glitchy. Empires at War or something like that. I don't know why I picked it up. I think it had good reviews or whatever. But the ship part I could get into, Sometimes labeled science fiction is not science fiction, but space opera or future drama. Future drama. That sounds like a cartoon show that's on. Future drama? No? I'm not a fan of any of the cartoon shows. Although, if I could find the old Johnny Quest on, I'd watch that with my daughter. It's one of those things I have fond memories of watching it with my dad. So here's what we got so far. Okay, so we're going to add a little bit of white to this color and add a little bit more flavor, so to speak. I need something to wet this a little bit. I'm just going to use straight water. Yeah, I'd watch the old Johnny Quest. I'm sure it's available somewhere. I think it's been redone a couple times. And I'm talking about the one from the 60s. Had to own it on disc. Yeah, I just have fond memory. Yeah, the episode I always remember is the one where they're fighting that invisible monster. They're on that island, and they got that monster. It's made of electromagnetic something or another. So they ended up like taking paintballs to shoot at it so they could see it. And it was like a one. It looked like the freaking ghost on freaking of Pac-Man. Maybe that's where they got the idea of it with like a one eye. That's what I remember. I may be incorrect, but things that stick with you. Yeah, I have fond memories of. My dad always liked that one. Yeah, see, that side's looking a lot better. Oh, don't knock the water down. That would be a pain in the ass. That would be a pain in the ass. I just can't get this to focus where I need it to focus. We're getting there. It'll look good in pictures, maybe not in video. Johnny Quest New Adventures is an abomination forbidden in my house. Right. Won't even check it out then. Yeah. Why redo things if you're going to make it shitty? How many episodes does it have? The old Johnny Quest, how many episodes was the old Johnny Quest? Man, I hadn't watched it. I probably haven't seen an episode of the old Johnny Quest in probably 40 years. And I just thought about it and I got the song stuck in my head now. The little tune. My favorite cartoon growing up as a kid, as a wee lad, under 10? Yeah, under 10 would have been Battle of the Planets. I loved that shit in the 70s. I like that. Now let's add a little bit more white to it. Add a little bit of water. Yeah, a little bit more white than that. Need to have a little bit more contrast so it can even be noticed. Unless you're right up in it. It was one season, about 26 episodes. Man, that's not very many. I think I'm gonna leave this alone. I think I'm gonna leave that alone. After school favorite, absolutely. Yep. I used to watch it in the late 70s when we lived in Alabama for a few years. Yeah, all those cartoons look good. You got all the cartoons now like Futurama and stuff like that, Simpsons. They're just really misproportioned figures, and I don't. As somebody who's artistic, I just kind of. It doesn't turn me on. It just doesn't turn me on. The people that are doing cartoons should make better looking cartoons than something I could do. And when they don't, I'm like, shit, why aren't I doing it? These guys are supposed to be the pros. That's a little bit of white. Yeah, I wouldn't want to paint my miniatures using craft paint. But all this terrain that you want it to look kind of worn and stuff, it really works really well for it. It behaves weird. It has a weird. It just doesn't behave like other stuff, but it works just fine for this. Yeah, they probably would paint this with a down brush stroke, so let's at least show those on there. It's gonna look like crap until I put pictures on the web. And I am a terrible picture taker. It's a focus. It's a focus issue. It's not a. It's not a. Assembling the picture type thing. It's just a focus. I have so much problem with that. I think I'm just trying to take pictures of things that are too close. So I try to remember kind of take it a little bit farther away and then zoom in where I need to zoom in. Yeah, Battle of the Planets. I used to watch that all the time. When my daughter was little, and we'd brush her hair, and the ends of her hair come up, I said, "Oh, you got princess hair," and that's a tie-in from the character Princess on there, whose I guess her hair was really green. Think about it, if I remember correctly, she had green hair. Anyways, bottoms of her hair kind of went up. Yep, some stuff just sticks with you. You just remember it, and you know. Never seen the show. Nobody else would know what the hell I'm talking about. Which Disney princess? Oh no, it's not a Disney princess at all. I always liked it because the bad guys' ships or contraptions were always in the shape of real Earth things, like a vulture or an armadillo, the space turtle, or something like that. Never watched all the episodes, but they were ahead of their time with the whole he-she villain. Interesting. I generally liked that show as a kid. You know, as a 9-year-old, 7 and 9-year-old. And I got that tune stuck in my head too. Some things you never forget. That's all right. We'll cover that. We'll cover that tune up with a thought of the old honeycomb cereal commercial. All right, let me step away from this, as I like to say. Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, absolutely. 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 Now I got to do a search for interior door colors in France in the 1940s. Nah, we're just going to make it wooden color. Is there an Osprey book on that? If there was an Osprey book on it, the first Osprey book on door colors would definitely be one of the Third Reich. Door colors of the Third Reich. All the Nazi shit they have. Primarily Nazi stuff. A reasonable color. Yeah, it looks really good from over here. It's funny, as you add things that have color, other ones fade. Like, for instance, this cobblestone that was nice and brown now is not. Because your eye gets fooled by this. Okay, cool. And we are going to paint a nice, crisp, black outline for this, you know, because you wouldn't normally see this. Is it even hidden? It might be hidden. I'm still going to paint it just because. For consistency. This, like this door's painted up kind of like a dark brown thing. Well, that one actually has texture to it. So, um, yeah. And then we'll have to get to the inside. I'm going to have to be creative to do that. I'm probably going to paint the inside of this house all the same color. That's good enough for me. So with that in mind, is there anything we have to do left to be done on this? Oh yeah, the door. All right, let's paint the door and paint this edging here, and then we can call this piece finished. Other than I think I'm gonna lighten the color of the floor. The floor is a little too like vibrant. Let's paint the let's paint the door using the wet palette and the wood colors. And a brush. Oh, we need more. We need a new drop of this. Could just leave it like that and call it a day, but I don't think I'm going to do that. So it looks like this casting at some point had like a wall they wanted to install that went from here, because you can see this floor is kind of rough here and it lines up with where there's a notch here for this wall, which it doesn't really need that, because then you need another door here, you know. There's enough different rooms in this house to make it interesting. You don't need yet another one. Although, honestly, I think this house would be considered kind of a hoity-toity house. Definitely somebody that had a decent amount of revenue lived here before it was, beat the shit. Well, this is a handicap accessible room. This door is a lot wider. And be careful, you won't have them French ADA guys that freaking be all over your shit. Actually, it'd be FDA, French Disability Act. Actually, it was nothing like that in the 40s. They put you in a wheelchair and you spent the rest of your room in whatever room the people that were mobile decided you were going to be in. Where's Grandma? I don't know. I'm going to go push her up in the broom. I'm tired of listening to her bitch, and I'm going to push her into the broom closet. think I'm going to have to paint these doors kind of impressionistic. Because I don't want to spend a month on each one. Not a good value of time. All right. I'm going to go to little boy's room. I'll be right back. We'll start on these doors. Okay. I didn't lose anybody. Excellent. Well, I said I was coming right back. Let's try something crazy. Uh-oh. I have these two Citadel colors, and in their silly names. Hobgrot Hide. Sounds like something from Harry Potter. Not that I would know, but XV88 base. I'm gonna made in the UK. Excellent. Let's see what else I have. I have a few of their colors here. Base Steel Agent Drab. That's too close to what I'm already using. Let's. I'm gonna leave this Hobgrot Hide here. We might use it to lighten up the door. All right. Let's get a brush that's gonna have even better than that one. Although that one's not bad. It does have a little curly thing at the end because I've used it a lot. What's that one doing face down? That's not good. Here we go. This one's good. Let's that's plenty refreshed. All right, let's come in. Let's do this. Let's get more of this same color that we just put down. And let's take this Hobgrot, which I don't know that I've ever used it. It's a nice color. Smells like house paint. No, ironically, I'm going to use it on the house. Let's put some of it down here. What happens is we add more of this? What's it turn into? Turn into a color I can use? Probably. Okay. contrast than that. We need to get this flowing really well. No, we need more contrast than that. I'm prepared to redo this and not be happy with how this turns out. So just something to keep in mind. I've got that in the back of my mind here. I've painted doors like this, but I've painted doors that are in places I can reach. You can't really reach this really well. Now, we need more differentiation. Okay, let's split that in half again. You break things down into more digestible portions. Sometimes it becomes easier to manage. So I got 3 vertical lines in there. I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm figuring out as I go. So let's go ahead and add There we go. We need to cover over itself. There you go. There we got three lines. All right, let's try squeezing one on either side of those as well, and try not to get it to touch itself. Okay, so now we got some vertical lines in there. Okay, and I could get really crazy with doing patterns and stuff on there, but I'd rather not spend a month on this thing. Now, I'm not going to use yellow, okay, because I continue using that yellow, because it's going to make it look too fakey looking. So let's get, I don't know if this is alive or not, but we're going to put some new white there. Make sure we got lots of flow on this thing. This is the color that we're working with here. So let's put some of it here. Add a little bit of white. And try highlighting. It's funny, this paint stays wet longer than the Vallejo does. You have to wait a little bit for that. Let it do its thing. I don't know that I'm 100% happy with that. I gotta wait for that to dry a little bit. Let me take a look at something. to go to Google, and we're going to go inside of French house 1940s. Images. I'm looking for particularly interior doors. Here's one. Ooh, that's complex. Okay. We could try that. I like stuff like that though. That kind of stuff's exciting. Paint something where nothing exists. Well, this one will have to be the same pattern because it's the same door. It's not going to be one thing on one side and one on another. That would be absurd. That would be absurd. But this one, let's do this with the other door. I think this, once it dries, I think it'll look just fine. And we're going to put a little doorknob in there. See, it would open this way. We want it to open that way. Yeah. Because you don't want to open this way with the freaking closet. That would be a problem. Although, that's not going to be figured in. People hiding behind doors. That's a bit too much. That's a little too much. Yeah, I'm not going to do interior wall coverings. That's a bit much. That's a detail too far. Although I have done little mini paintings. They might be okay. Put a little mini painting up there, but wallpaper and stuff like that, nah. I personally hate wallpaper. Like there's not an ounce of wallpaper in any house I live in. Okay, this is a super wide door. It almost could have been cut out. Let's stick with the same colors because I think the color works just fine. All right, let's go to town here. We're gonna put this that goes around the edges. And we're gonna go a little wider than that. Honestly, I don't mind doing the paintings. I could always do them afterwards and stick them on. Blue tack. Use blue tack and put them on there. Okay, so we got that goes around the edge. And I believe it has a center portion where the strengthener where the doorknob is. Yeah. So we're going to have a part of it that goes across here and a part of it that goes across here. And it won't be as noticeable right now because I do need to bring this up. You can't even tell. I tended to paint ruins as though the fire had blackened the walls and interiors. Yeah, well, I don't know that there's enough wood here that there's fire or something. I don't know. I guess firefighters are probably, if you're a painter / firefighter, you'd probably be really good at that. Just seen all kinds of stuff. Ooh, this one's going to be difficult to get to. Print off wallpaper designs? Yeah, I could probably do that, but then they've got to kind of go with my painting style. That's just, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Let's see, is this too much of a. Yeah, it's too much of a contrast so far. This might be too much as what I'm doing, anyways. Because I got to do the whole lower floor. I don't know how the hell I'm going to reach some of those places on the lower floor. I'm sure I'll make the right decision when it's time to make it. But there's some tight spots on the lower floor. You know, this casting's been around a long time. One of my goals is to make this building the best one of this particular casting that anyone's ever seen. And then one of you guys has to come out and outdo me. I don't know that I don't know that I'm gonna be able to pull this off in a way that I'm gonna be happy with it. But at this point, got nothing to lose. No point in switching sides. Let's just work on this one too. Okay, that got a little better. We just need to widen this up a little bit so there's less of the... Then, let's do the same thing down here. I think I can work with that. I think I can work with that and make it work. This is a case that actually looks better on the video than it does in real life. Maybe not so. I think we can work with that. So I've never done this before, but I know what it's going to take. So I just have zero experience doing this before. This is the first door I've ever painted. And you can't just like throw one color on there and do it. It's a multitude of different things, and it can be impressionistic looking and still work. I'm not gonna have a 3D doorknob. That's a bit much. But I do want to do a good job with this thing because that's how I'll do more. All right. This one's going to open this way. So this one needs to open in. So the hinges are on this side, the doorknob is on this side over here. Let's put a doorknob in. Put my glasses on. What's behind the door? Les partisans. Now we lighten up the floor a little bit, make it look a little bit more worn. I think that's actually, I'm on the right track. Still got a little ways to go. But kind of on the right track. Pretty happy with it. Looks better than not painting it. So come on, there we go. I did the right thing, just working on one side of it first. Try to avoid getting overwhelmed. I should paint some hinges. No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. When do you want to finish? Apparently the 12th of never. Well, it may not be perfect, but it looks better than a Matisse. That's good enough for me. I'm actually really enjoying this part. You paint things where nothing exists. That's pretty cool. Is it? Yeah. I'm on a roll, man. I'm on a tear on this. I love this. So actually, the last two weekends have been short. Look at that. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I think that works. I think that works. And I don't know how many levels of color. We got the dark brown, and I probably got like 4 or 5 on each one. And it works. I'm happy with that. That's neat because we can do some cool pattern doors then. And I actually like the color that the door is, and that's that turned out to my liking. That turned out to my liking. You could really tell the detail on the wood there with it being that close. Yeah, that's what I hate about the video is, I'm painting this with a built-in plus 6.0, and you guys don't see how this is that ridge that you were talking about there. It looks like it tied into that wall where there's a gap. Anyhow, I'm pretty happy with that right there. I just got to do the same thing on the other side, which, the hardest thing for me is figuring out what I'm going to do. Once I figured out, oh, it needs to be a pattern and look like this, that's the easy part, is the rest. Only because I've done it so many times, but yeah. Nice. Knock, knock. Knock, knock, motherfucker. Is this the door that faces out? I think it is. All right, let's see what this looks like on the building. That looks a little cartoonish. I don't mind that look. I don't mind a little bit of a cartoonish look. Yeah, I think that works. And this line up here that you can see it's kind of black, we're going to paint this so it's nice and crisp and black on here in between it. Almost like it's a die cut interior part of the building. So yeah, I like that little bit of a yellow twang to the inside of that. Yeah, we got how many doors? We got one there, one there. I might not be able to give them the full treatment. I can't reach them. I just can't reach the thing. I mean, if I was really particular, I could get a piece of cardboard, drop it in there, paint it, and then glue it on. But I don't think that's going to some extremes. Some really extremes. I don't think I need to back myself into that corner. And considering how difficult it is to reach some of these things, I think so far it's gone pretty well. Like I said, I'm giving myself till the end of June to get this thing done. So I think we're plenty on track. Yeah, like that, huh? Yeah, I think it turned out pretty well. But this is the detail you guys can't see on all the wood that I'm doing. You know, you can't until you get in there and really can't really appreciate it until you zoom it in and get rid of some of this glare that it's kicking back. I think I want to lighten the wood up a little bit more. You know, here's what's left of these beams. You can't see them from there. I'm pretty happy with the results of that. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and a lot of this is just the flow aid is just it helps so much. I'm going to go ahead and paint. I'm not going to use craft paint for this. I probably shouldn't have painted the top step. Oh well. Come back and redo it. No, still zoomed in. Oops. This brush is getting a little too uncontrollable. Yeah, these brushes are also shitty. There we go. We'll let that dry. Gonna switch gears. I think I actually prefer the wet palette just drying itself out and not having that mold growth. All right, let's bring the tanks back. They should be dry. Better be. Better be. All right, we're going to put some more of this. This is the same green I put on it initially. Always start with a running gear. That's it. Oh, geez. That's the problem with putting it on your area. Encroaching upon yourself. Thing actually looks like it's got some pretty decent tracks. Track detail. Although it's kind of flimsy, you gotta be somewhat careful with it. Okay, now the important part, the holes. So we do want some of this core color back there. Well, not too much. Just something like that. I'm popping in and out of stream, real life, inspirational job on the hardwood floor, please. Yeah, I'm not done yet. It's easy, man. It's easy. You just gotta realize it's gonna take a while, and you can't just throw one color on top of the other one and get a desired effect. It's gonna take four or five different. And it's kind of like when you go on a road trip and it's going to be a long road trip. It's okay because you knew it was going to take umpteen amount of hours. And it's easy. And the thing is that it just takes some time. And anybody that I admire that really is just a really good painter, they're doing the same thing. It's taken them a long time too. Of course, the people that I think paint really, really well, and I'm talking about miniatures, don't do live programming. They don't do. That doesn't mean people that do live programming can't paint well. I'm talking about the people that I'm like, man, I really like his stuff, or my go-to folks. They don't. Whoops. They don't. They hide their secrets a little better, and I don't know that they do it. I don't think they do it on purpose, but it's just I do this program because hey, it keeps me engaged, and hell, you might see something that might entertain you or help you in a rut that you're in. So here's the difference between the dry brush of the original color back on it after the strong tone. I gotta remember to call it strong tone, not Agrax, strong tone. This is the first one we've done the strong tone on the vehicles. I definitely like it better the way it behaves. So y'all see Steam is getting sued. No. No, I don't search for the drama. I try to avoid news. Claim it's a monopoly. Well, you mean the government actually does some antitrust stuff? Because it sure seems like they don't. You know. We have a gas station here that Kevin, you may have this because you're in the States, and I know at least you're here. Marcus, they don't have gas stations in New York. I'm sure they do. We have a convenience store chain here called Kangaroo, and I swear probably 95% of the gas stations are all theirs in town. I don't know how the hell they get away with it. It just seems not right. So I was having some issues with my car starting very unoccasionally, has some hesitation and stuff, and I think it's just poor quality gas from generic gas from that. So I wanted to make sure I went out of my way and got something that was a Shell or a Chevron or something like that, something that's a little bit more consistent. See if that goes away with it. I have a relatively new car. It's got less than 30,000 miles on it, so it shouldn't be having those kind of issues. And I think it's just bad gas. I don't think it's water in the tank. I think it's just bad gas. It doesn't happen that often. It happens like maybe once out of 50 times. So it's isolated enough. But I have a feeling that that's what it is. It's just crap quality gas. And 95% of the gas, it took me a long time to find a station. It wasn't a Kangaroo. And we even have one corner that's not far from here, and have one gas station on every corner. On three of them, there's a Wendy's on another one. All three of them are Kangaroos. Like, why would you buy all of them? It just seems like it's a competition. I don't know. It just seems like it just doesn't look right. It looks dirty. So how can one place have all the supply of everything else? Like. Just because somebody's getting sued doesn't mean. Only people that make money on suits are freaking attorneys. No kangaroo here. Yeah. No. It's a it's a it's a racket here. We don't have any 7-Elevens here in town. None. I don't know what it is about this town. Don't like 7-Elevens. Not saying I'm hankering to go to one, but it's kind of unusual. We don't have any here. I'm sorry, they're not kangaroos. They used to be kangaroos, and they're Circle K's. That's what it is. They're Circle K's, not kangaroos. But it's the same problem with the kangaroo. They bought everything out. It just seems nefarious, anti-competitive. Okay, so that's where we're going to leave that at. Let's go up to the KV1 turret. Yeah, it's not kangaroo. They have the same color as kangaroo. Or kangaroo has yellow in it. Red, white, and yellow. Circle K is just red and white. Same thing. I don't ever go into a convenience store, as I like to call them, inconvenience stores. You know, the thing about monopolies is they're anti-consumer. But if the people that are running all the companies are all in cahoots with each other, then it doesn't really matter what you do antitrust-wise. The consumer's still getting bent. Like if everybody's in on it, if they're not really competing to each other, they're making deals in the back room like a mafiosos. That's just as bad. Perfect size pinky. And the big babushka.
weirdest antitrust situation to me is how American sports is ran like a communist system, but the government also gives tax breaks, handouts to the leagues alongside legal protections.
Yeah, it's all freaking dirty, man. All governments are that way. Some dirty shit going on. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Corruption is corruption. Okay, so that's going to be our starting point there. Now, because this dries so quick, we can roll right into it. We're going to take, this is an idea off of whatever his name is, that I can't give him credit because I don't remember what his name is. What is his name? I'm subscribed to him. Let's give the guy some credit. I'm not doing everything the way his idea was, but his dark sand idea was his. Let's see if I'm able to pull this off. He should be on my subscriptions. His name is, and he's got some good material on there. He's got a lot more viewers than I do. Of course, he does a lot more different things than I do. Man, I'm subscribed to a shitload of people. I believe it's Sonic Sledgehammer. I could be wrong, but I believe it's Sonic Sledgehammer. He did a thing on, I was getting ready to do my World War II stuff, and I'm like, see how people were painting Sherman tanks, and he said, add a little bit of this dark sand, and it works really well. Nope, not buff. That's its kissing cousin. Dark sand should be this one. There she is. Yeah, I believe it's Sonic Sledgehammer. So we're going to go to the running gear first. Or I got the wash from him and the dark sand from somebody else. I wouldn't have thought to use a color other than white to lighten it up. It's not normally how I paint, so. One thing that does happen is you need to clean these things up because they get kind of gummy. Even though you're like, well, now your brush is all wet. Yeah, but it doesn't have the paint all gummied on there. So. And you got to do enough contrast. Usually I make a mistake of when I dry brush, I don't make each color that much different from the one before, so it blends a little too much. This is about right. And each level you do is easier than the one before it. Quicker than the one before it. And it's just like, that's plenty. That's just plenty right there. You adding water to it? Yep, sure am. You can have some moisture. And I like doing this on this cardboard because first of all, I got plenty of cardboard. And second of all, it's kind of my one-stop shop. I got cardboard there and I can wipe it off on the same thing and it's a free material. I get everybody at the office like, hey, don't throw those things away. You can go to the hobby store and buy some, but why? These are something they don't need at your work. I was about to say house of worship. No, we don't worship at work. I spend enough time there.
tone this down a little bit. Remember, this is going to actually get weathering on top of it too. That'll also be dry brush. So we've got a few more steps to go. And plus we got another dry brush level on top of this one. Forgot to mention, it says run by, what do you say? Run by a communist system. Forgot to add in the part, well, that's not real communism. And the excuse the communists always say, oh, well, they're not doing it right. Any way you do it sucks. Any way you do it sucks.
My daughter claims she had a run-in with somebody in school that was arguing that communism was good. I wish I would have been there. Sounds like somebody needs to have their freedoms taken away. See how you like that? This is going to have kind of a streaky look on purpose. We don't want to add any of this lightning stuff towards the end of the barrel. We're going to leave that as is. And you cut these down the size a little bit so it fits in there a little better. See what I'm working with here. Let's get a finished one out here. Something of the same vintage. And that's kind of the same thing that I did with these. This is a Skytrek 76. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to add. Well, I got to pick some things out with some watered down version of this. You know, things that ought to stand out. And then dry brush it. Actually pick some things out and then end up doing the slogans, then dry brushing it. So. Yeah, with the finish on the side of that big old turret, you know, like the edging here, we're going to make the edging pop and stuff like that. That takes a little bit of time, but I think that's really well worth it. See what this thing looks like with the, it's like the Russians have the sprocket in the back. Yeah, it's a good looking vehicle. They're good looking vehicles. You guys are getting a lot of kickback from the light because it looks like there's almost like no shadow in it. But Yeah. Well, we're going to go ahead and call this one for today. Did some interesting things, mixed things up a little bit. Thanks for coming by. Always appreciated. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.